Hello and welcome to the Minuteman Theory podcast. This is episode 4. My name is Brad and I'm the founder of Minuteman Theory. Today we are talking about the rise of AI and about the inauguration of President Trump and the certification of the election. Ian, how are you doing tonight?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good.
So I'm Ian. I am firearms and scary things expert for the team. And I'm excited. I think this is going to be a good one. A lot of poignant stuff has come out here as of recently, and I feel like we got a lot to go over. Nick, how are you holding up?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
I'm Nick, and I am the why guy. I can talk about the philosophical side of things and kind of the ethics and motivation behind the things we're trying to do. And I'm excited to get into, especially like the AI topic tonight.
Yeah, and before we start, I want to say I apologize for the dark scene here for Ian and I, but it is night, and we like to do this podcast in front of a fire, and we feel like the conversation is more important than the video anyway. So,
and you'll probably end up. I like the idea of these podcasts because you don't have to watch. There's nothing to really watch. It's just us sitting here with a fire. It's just you can listen.
Yeah, exactly. And you can watch the fire trickle there too.
Right.
It's peaceful.
It is.
So anyway, let's start. Let's start with the inauguration and with the certification of the election. Nick and I actually had a bet for the certification of the election, and I lost.
Okay.
We bet 1,000 Rolf coin.
Okay.
Which, for our audience...
Yeah, we ought to get into Rolf coin. Just a brief...
Yeah. Okay. So Rolf coin, just quick tangent. Rolf coin is a stupid meme cryptocurrency that I made because I'm a big computer nerd and thought that it would be fun to have a cryptocurrency that I could trade with my friends. And it's actually technically worth some money, but like nothing. Like the whole, there's 100 billion Rolf coins that exist.
Well, I know I own 1 million of them.
Yeah. And 100 billion of them, I think it's 100 billion. Yeah. The entirety of the 100 billion is worth like $1,000.
Hey, all right. So I have a couple.
Assuming you had somebody willing to trade for the full $1,000 worth of Rolf coin.
Yeah. So anyway, but I created it just for fun, and so we bet in it sometimes, at least Nick and I. So I lost this bet for 1,000 Rolf coin, which is essentially worth nothing.
Like 2,000ths of a cent, maybe.
Yes. All right. Bragging rights. I like it.
But anyway, I had a prediction that more than 80% of Democrats would vote to not certify the election results.
And we went back and forth on the terms of the bet, because I was convinced with the rhetoric around the election stuff, like there's gonna be at least a couple of Democrats that vote to not certify. But I thought that the majority still would. So I'll go 80. I won't go like 100% would vote to certify, because I thought that was a pretty long shot. I thought there'd be a couple, more radicals, but I'm not doing this on principle. And so I won the bet, but I was still wrong about what I thought would actually happen, because it turns out nobody voted against it.
Yeah, everybody voted to certify, which, can I say, I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
Because this election was, for me, I thought that it was going to be really close, and I thought that whoever won, whether it was Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, that the other side would deny that the election was legit. I thought it was going to be so razor close that they were going to be like, oh, no, this can't be right. And then that would devolve into some sort of, not necessarily violent conflict, but
it was going to be messy.
Yeah.
My buddy said that he thought he had thought this was going to be the first election decided by the Supreme Court, because it would get so in the weeds and razor thin and messy that it would have to escalate to that point.
Yeah. So I was surprised that it went the way it went. That it was so much for Trump in both the Electoral College and the popular vote. And but I think it's better that way because I think we avoided conflict that way.
For sure. I do also think, though, that it kind of speaks to how I will get excited about how politics in general, at least national politics, are so vile and mudslingy in the sense of, Trump's Hitler. And then when it comes to actually certifying Hitler's election, everyone's like, it's fine.
Right.
Like the fact that they just lay down after he wins. And yeah, he won it relatively significant, but if they actually believed he was Hitler, there would be more actual efforts to try and stop him, I would think.
It's you talk about federal or national elections, but man, the mudslinging goes for local elections. For those that don't know, I'm a city councilman in my town, and man, the mudslinging that happens is just like it's everywhere you go.
Yeah, but to be fair, you're also a city council member.
Yes,
and I think that you're a good one, by the way. But I don't think that someone like you could ever be elected president because you're not corrupt enough.
Well, we're going to find out.
Well, yeah.
Announcing 2028 election run.
Ian for governor 2028. A vote for Ian is a vote for you.
But I think also, Ed, I think we've talked about it before, is you get that high up in government, on the local level,
right?
You talk to the people that live here in the town we live in.
Daily, yes.
And you understand their troubles,
yes,
to a certain extent. Once you get up federally, and you're the president, so the people in Florida have different problems than the people in California, and have different problems than the people here in Montana.
Right. So I have said that I would like to see local and state governments be more involved in people's lives than the federal government. And the reason I say that is because I'm a city councilman. If somebody has an issue, they can call me and they can say, "Hey, Ian, this is my issue. My issue is XYZ," and I say, "Okay, cool." And I will listen and I will, act accordingly. The same thing with at the state level, to a certain extent. Like I can write to our governor, Gian Forte, and I can call his office and say, "Hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is what I don't agree with this, or I agree." And you'll end up getting somewhere. As soon as you hit the federal side, it's like you really think that if I called up Donald Trump's office right now, or when the inauguration happens, do you really think that I would get to talk to Donald Trump himself? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where I think the higher up you go in government, the wider your influence is, the less power you should have.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Well, because it limits the ability for the constituents to actually other than elections, which are so much money in advertising and stuff, that's a whole other can of worms. But you don't have any other kind of check against the higher up electeds. Depending on the size of your town, you might not actually know your city council members, but you can kind of snub them in public if you don't like them. There's some social power that you have there.
Right.
None of us are ever going to meet Donald Trump, probably, and even if we did, if we snubbed him, why would he care?
Right.
Well, and you have more control over your local, like what you said. Not just the snubbing, but you have more control over your local government.
You're a larger percentage of the voting populace.
Yes.
Right. And if you want to change your local government, it takes a whole lot fewer votes. It takes a whole lot. You have to convince fewer people to your side to change. So if you don't like your city council member, the next election comes up, you just have to convince enough people in your city that they should change their vote from this person.
Yes.
Same with mayor.
Yes.
And then it gets a little bit harder with your state representatives, but that's the next step.
Yes.
And then after that would be the governor.
Yes.
And then beyond that, governor, probably senators would be same as the governor as far as difficulty, I would think.
It's similar. Like
Yeah,
the
I think you're
senators,
right.
like there's the two, but they're still off in Washington.
Yeah, but
Right,
what I mean is you have to convince your entire state, basically, or
Yeah.
a good majority of your state, rather than just the people in your town or in your county
Yes.
or your district.
And again, we're talking about money. Now, when I did the paperwork to become a city councilman, my budget was $5,000. I couldn't spend more than $5,000 to become a city councilman. You know what it is for a state senator, or for a senator? For a senator,
Oh, I'm sure it's like 500 million or something.
500,000.
500. Oh, well, it's a whole lot less than I thought, but that's still a lot of money.
And for governor, it was like, I forget what it was, but it was something stupid.
Yeah.
But see, that's the point, right? Like, I can, I have $5,000 that I could use, but that's it. Like, I feel like the issue with politics is all the money that's involved in it,
Because that doesn't even take into account like the super PACs and stuff that can run outside of the campaign itself, like the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that are spent on an election cycle, that it's like, for the most part, all of that money just goes to plastering signs everywhere and talking about how bad the other person is.
Yes.
So, but I think that can also backfire. I think that's what we saw here in Montana with John Tester versus Tim Sheehy. Is I think I saw maybe one or two pro Tim Sheehy ads, and all the other ones were pro John Tester, but they were anti Sheehy.
That's wild, because I had the complete opposite.
Really?
I had the complete opposite. Yes.
Weird. Like,
that's a whole other rabbit hole about how controlled our media is, and based off of browsing data and stuff.
That's weird, because I swear
my experience was the complete opposite. In fact, Corey ended up getting like ads upon ads upon ads upon ads. At one point, there was like 5 ads a day coming for Sheehy, pro Sheehy.
Really?
And if there's anybody in this household that is not pro Sheehy, it is Corey, like without a doubt, And so I found it funny, and then I would get pro Tester ads. I'm like, this is funny. Like, they have us completely, you know what I mean? They have us completely. Well, yeah.
That's interesting, because like I swear almost every single ad I saw was like shady Sheehy this, oh, he out of state billionaire that,
right,
and
right.
And it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna vote for the guy because you keep telling me not to. But if you got the opposite, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I got the opposite.
I wonder why it was curated like that. I'm sure it's based on browser habits or something.
Probably. But they surely don't have me pegged, which is good. That makes me happy. Yeah, it makes me happy.
On the other hand, too, though, like if for advertising strategy, do you advertise to the people that are already going to vote for you, or do you advertise to the people that to try and change their mind?
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
I think another component too, though, of like we talk about corruption with the higher up it gets. There's that old adage, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, the implication of that is the more power that individual has, the more corrupt they're going to be, the more corrupted by that power they're going to be.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that's true to a certain extent. But there's a little piece of me that wants to believe that there are truly altruistic people out there. And that even if you have, I feel like there are certain people that if they had ultimate power, they would use it in an altruistic, righteous way. But those are the type of people that would never want the power in the first place.
That's funny, because I was good.
Because I also think that those are the kind of people that wouldn't choose to wield the power, so to speak. Like, they would still submit to something higher than themselves. So they wouldn't take on kind of the absolute power. They might have access to it, but they would choose like their higher morals or a higher power that they would say, I'm still subject to this. So it's the people that make themselves, like, take the power into themselves, like, I am the person wielding all this power, that they get corrupt absolutely. Whereas if you say, hey, here are the principles that are above me, I can't violate these, period, then you're not actually experiencing that absolute power. You're limiting it yourself.
Sure. So you're saying like the people who still submit to God or the universe or whatever, instead of those who say, now that I have all the power, I am God.
Yeah. So like the communist tendencies of, oh, if I have all the power, then I can make the state perfect. Those are the people that get absolutely corrupted. Whereas on the flip side of, hey, it's not my right to decide these things. So if given this power, I'm not going to abuse it because there's these higher principles. They're the ones that won't step too far. Well, less likely to, because there's always that temptation to take on the mantle of God yourself, so to speak.
Sure. Do you think that that higher power could also be the will of the people?
Potentially.
That's where I find myself as far as being a city council. It's what is the will of the people and what does the Constitution say? And that's basically it, you know. That's and you know, to be honest with you, I don't even really want to be there. I mean, let's call it what it is. You know, I don't want to be involved in that. It's messy. It's, you know, a lot of people trying to push their own agenda, and you know, it's just that's not who I am. But I keep going because I feel like I'm representing the people who aren't being represented by some of the other city council members, and that's my big motivation to keep going back.
That's like the biggest mythological kind of democratic leaders, like George Washington, Cincinnatus for Rome, like the people that had the power and then said, "Hey, I'm done. Let somebody else have a term," and then they go back to their farm. Like,
and then you get like FDR, who decides that the 2-term tradition is not for him.
Yeah. And throwing people into internment camps, whatever.
I mean, yeah. And lying to the American public about being in a wheelchair. And lots of things.
Yeah, lots of things.
But yeah. So
I think again, we haven't the inauguration hasn't happened yet, but I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I suspect there'll be like the kind of like the last time he was inaugurated. There'll be the protests on the outskirts, but I suspect based on how submissive kind of everybody's been since then, it'll just be a regular inauguration. And
you think so?
I don't think the protesters are going to get a whole lot of like what's the word, like establishment support or anything like that. I think they'll be kind of the crazies yelling on the outskirts, and that'll be about it.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling now too, after how the election went and how the certification went.
I think the whole man, I don't know. I think that things could possibly get really bad because, you know, he was attempted, or the assassination attempts. There was 2 of them. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
that's true.
Like, I don't know, man. You know, I think that.
Okay, yeah, but that's another thing I think kind of backfired. The first attempt where he got shot in the ear.
Yes.
Like, that made him look really hardcore.
I saw that picture and I'm like, oh, he's winning the election now. Like before that, I was like, I don't know, but like that's like history book level.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That will absolutely be in the history books, guaranteed.
Yeah. The other one was like, I don't know, kind of a nothing burger.
Yeah.
The guy had a cheapo scope.
SKS, yeah.
Yeah, had like electrical tape to the top of his rifle.
Yeah. Anyway, but
I think it's entirely possible that there is still violence at the inauguration. 100%.
Yeah, but like what level? Do you think it's going to be people breaking car windows, or do you think it's going to be people trying to hurt other people?
I think it's going to be people trying to hurt other people.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Like,
I feel like
Summer of Love, or
like Portland.
Okay.
Like I feel like
every day in Portland.
Yeah, that's why I think that, and this is my opinion. Again, is that there is an underlying in America right now. There is an underlying hatred for either side, right? Like each side hates the other side for whatever reason that may be. And I feel like this may very well be the catalyst that sets everything off. Because granted, the people don't really pay attention to what goes on in Washington. I love to watch C-SPAN, but as far as like things that impact us, the average American doesn't really follow. However, the inauguration, I feel like that could absolutely be something, you know, that's big enough that draws people, and there could definitely be violence.
See, I think it goes one of two ways. I think 95% it's what I said, just kind of some protests, and otherwise it goes off smoothly. There's that, might not even be 5%, probably like 0.5%, that this is the calm to keep people off their guard, and then there's going to be some kind of coup thing at the inauguration. Now, that's kind of the conspiracy theory leap out there, but that's I don't see, because there weren't big protests and stuff after the election was called, or for the January 6th memorial or whatever they want to do. I don't foresee that sparking off at the inauguration. I think that if people it's pretty much set in stone. Like, he's been certified, the election's been called, this is happening. The spark point, I feel like, would be in an earlier time before it was solidified that he was going to be inaugurated.
Well, and my view is that it doesn't matter. None of that mattered. We were just waiting for the right time to get the right people in the right area. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what it would be awful if it happened, but I think would basically guarantee that some sort of coup or uprising wouldn't happen is if World War III kicked off.
That would, between now and then, that's that.
Yeah, and just because I would think that I don't know, it seems like historically to me, and I could be totally wrong about this because I'm no historian, but that every time there was a major war where the country was at war, nobody had any time to really think about politics unless they could. The political thing was either they were for the war or against the war. It was never like, whose political side are you on necessarily.
Well, that depends on how stable the government is, because there have been plenty of times where war has led to a shift in governance. I mean, the Soviets took over Russia in the middle of World War One to take advantage of that. And so, like, if there's an unstable government and then the country goes into war, then that gives the opportunity for people to come in and propose, like put themselves as the solution, depending on how the war is going and stuff.
In Russia's defense, that is right out of the Communist Manifesto. That is like page 1. Wait for the country to be weak and take over. Anyway,
you know what else is in the Communist Manifesto that communists will never admit to? Well, except for maybe
rounding people up and forcing them to be on farms and taking their stuff by force.
No. The part about the people are supposed to be armed. They're never supposed to disarm the workers.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's in
that makes sense. Like logically, if you think of the whole point, like the ideological point is that the workers have all the control, then the workers need to have all the control.
Right.
But the problem is, to enforce that, you basically have to have a totalitarian government and take away, disarm the workers.
Yeah.
Because what if the workers decide, hey, I don't want to go and work on that canal. I'm going to shoot you if you try and make me. Then that breaks down pretty quickly.
Yes.
Well, and then the totalitarian government says, well, I'm going to shoot you if you don't go work on that canal. But
yeah, it's my opinion that there is an underlying hatred in this country right now, and things have not yet begun to kind of show themselves. And I think that either they will, or I think they will with the inauguration.
I agree with you that there's like an underlying hatred and still a lot of division, but I'm somewhat optimistic that is starting to kind of dissolve. And I think what has happened is it seems like our country has overall shifted more left and then the fringe left that used to be somewhat reasonable people it's gotten bigger and even farther left to like just absolute crazy town with some of the woke stuff.
Right.
And then a lot of the people who were considering themselves left and Democrat were like, well, if that's what it means to be left, then I don't want to be left.
Right.
And so I guess I'm conservative now, even though they still are technically left of center.
Yeah, and then, but then on the other side of the conservatives, you have the absolute, it's communism on the left and dictatorship on the right, or kingship or whatever. So I mean,
I think it's on both ends. I think we talked about this one time too. Instead of having like a political compass where you have absolute left and absolute right, I think it comes back into a circle, because absolute authoritarian right and absolute authoritarian left they're basically totalitarian regimes. It's just they have a little bit different ways about going about it, but it always ends up in a totalitarian government oppressing the people.
Yes,
well, I've thought for a long time that a lot more useful scale isn't like left and right, but individualist versus collectivist. Like the radical individualist is like the anarchist, and then the radical collectivist is the communist of the mob of the entire nation should have absolute say and absolute power. Now,
but that's anarchy, though. I mean, that's
well, that's kind of Brad's thing. It comes back around to the beginning again, then.
Right.
But I think you're not necessarily talking about left and right, though. You're talking about authoritarian libertarian, because you have the extreme communist stuff that ends up in totalitarian government, but then you can have the super I guess like individualism I would think would be more libertarian, collectivism would be more authoritarian, and so you could have like a Christian nationalist group of people that are very collectivist, but they would be considered right wing.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no,
because they hold traditional Judeo-Christian values. They would be right wing, but still collectivist.
Well, but that's I think I've yet to hear a definition of left and right that is not a list of policies. So are you able to articulate what the difference between left and right is, other than listing what policies belong in each side?
I think left and right is basically I think it's more traditional. I mean, maybe it's just that the more right you are, the more you align with Judeo-Christian values, and the more left you are, the less that you do. So if you're like lefty, if you're
like I don't know, radical, like the terrorist radical Muslims, they would be more left wing instead of right wing, because that's not, I wouldn't say that's Judeo-Christian values.
But according to them, it is. According to them,
not Judeo-Christian.
Well, according to some of the radical left wingers, their views are Judeo-Christian too.
Right. I mean that's fair.
No, that's fair. I wouldn't consider Islamist extremists left wing. They would definitely be more right wing, I think.
Yes.
And that also begs the question too: in a nation that isn't Western, can they have a left and right if Judeo-Christian values define the right?
No, their sects are strictly religious. So you have the Sunni, you have the Shiite, and you have the Ba'ath Party, and that's everything in that area revolves around religion. Plain and simple. There's no political party. It is religion based for everything.
So I think that it's more like, instead of defining like left and right, maybe there is kind of like a value structure definition, like Judeo-Christian versus Islam versus Judaism versus Buddhism, whatnot. Just to make like the religious ones, and then in that category there is the spectrum of authoritarian versus libertarian.
Okay, maybe it is on the right. people subscribe to a morality. They subscribe to a specific morality, and not that right morality is specific, but the fact that they subscribe to a specific morality. So Judeo-Christian morality, Islamic morality, or even just maybe a little more moderate conservative.
Absolutist versus relativist?
Yeah, I think maybe that's it.
I could see that. Now again, that would get to where there are absolutist left-wingers, I would say.
Like what?
I mean, like the idea, the absolute idea that it's not just about making individual choices, but you also have to encourage and engage in the choices that others make. I wouldn't call that relativistic. I would say that crosses back into absolutist.
No, see, I think that's on the authoritarian, libertarian scale again, though.
So well, but no,
because it's basically it's like I said.
So I would agree if the leftist says it's not okay for you to criticize other people's views. Once it crosses over into you must also celebrate them, that becomes forcing you to engage in something else. That's no longer relativistic. It's saying this thing this person is doing is better than the thing that you're doing. And that crosses back towards absolutism. Because it's saying this thing is better than the relative thing.
But usually it comes with, so it totally makes sense, if you have like an Islamic extremist that says all the infidels must die. You either have to be Muslim or you die.
Yes.
That's that side, and that totally makes sense. I think on the other side, what you're describing is basically the same thing, but they're saying instead of saying you must adhere to this moral code, they're saying you must adhere to not having a moral code. You must adhere to relative thinking. If you think that there's any sort of absolute truth, then the only absolute truth is that there is no absolute truth.
So I guess, yeah, so then the radical relativism would be not only can everybody have their own opinion, but you must also celebrate every single other person's opinion, unless that opinion prevents you from celebrating somebody's opinion.
Yeah, and I think on both ends, like I said, it comes back around. It's essentially an extremist religion on both ends.
Oh, for sure.
So go ahead.
Yes, I think what people fail to realize is that the state can be its own religion. The state, and it has been in years past, the state is its own religion.
Well, so, my personal opinion is I don't think that religion is optional. The question is what religion you have, and sometimes that's the vacuous, just like being spiritual or whatnot. But like, let's say atheism can be a religion. Worshipping the state can obviously be a religion. Worshipping like leftist ideals can be just as much religion as Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or whatnot. I think that as humans, we have to submit to some kind of value structure, and that value structure inherently is, I think, like fills the religious role.
You think that people are doing that even on the super extreme, no absolute truth side?
Oh yeah, because their absolute truth is a lack of absolute truth. They're willing to die on a hill and not hear arguments otherwise, because obviously they're right and you're wrong.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I would agree that that it is a religion, and like you mentioned earlier, like atheists, you would think, okay, they're not religious, but the majority of atheists I've met have been so adamantly not atheist but anti-theist.
Yes, right. They
are just like, if you believe in a god, you are stupid.
Yes.
But that's not much different than saying if you don't believe in Allah, you're an infidel. Like,
exactly.
Yes.
Well, except that I don't know many atheists that go around like murdering people, but I'm sure that
there have been a few shooters whose motives might be leading that way.
True. That is fair. So, not to abruptly change the subject or anything, but I feel like we're going down a little bit of a
rabbit hole.
I can segue into AI.
Okay. All right, cool.
Ooh, because AI, religion, something?
No. So we were talking about division and how much hatred there is underlying and how divided we are as a nation. I think that the rate at which we've advanced technologically, especially with communication technology, has opened the door for political actors to sow that division for the sake of their own political success, both in terms of like manipulating media and social media and whatnot. And I think that the people that really hate the other side are the people that are constantly online. The people that are just living their life and don't really go on social media, they might not really
100%. Yes,
they're just like, oh, we're all people. So
yes.
I think that the what AI will end up doing, and I think it's already starting to do this, is I think it's going to poison pill the internet in the sense of it's going to get to the point where you can't trust anything you're seeing that's digital because AI can so perfectly imitate anything that you'll get deep fakes of the same politicians saying opposite things. There's no way for you to tell what's real unless you saw it in person.
So that's already happening, and for me, it's already happening. I already don't trust anything I see on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, you know, and I completely agree with you. And in fact, you were talking about bad actors. It's a known fact that during the 2016 presidential election, Russia got involved in Facebook. The KGB got involved in Facebook and other political websites. And really, I'm not going to say which candidate because they didn't actually say which candidate, but they supported and didn't support. All they wanted to do was sow what was it? They wanted to sow mistrust in the
unrest. Because the whole point wasn't to get somebody elected. The whole point was to make hate each other.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's where I think that we either have that you can see a positive path and a negative path. The positive path is people start waking up and saying, hey, the internet isn't real. And then they start turning, this is kind of what we're trying to do. They turn back to their physical communities, start doing things in person more. They start having real experiences instead of virtual ones. And then those kind of powers start to kind of lose that control. The dark turn, though, becomes which AI do I worship instead? My AI is true, your AI is false. So I hate you because you subscribe to ChatGPT because I'm a Grok guy.
What's interesting is I don't know if you played Mass Effect, but there is in Mass Effect that is something that is brought up that there is AI that is correct and there is AI that is not correct, and they end up even the AI ends up warring again. It's like this is wild, man.
Well, it's like go ahead, Brad.
Oh, there's a YouTube channel, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they pit these different AIs against each other in debates, and so they'll have the Google AI and they'll have Grok and ChatGPT and Meta AI, and they'll have two of them debate a topic. Like one that I saw that was fascinating was abortion.
Okay,
so they had one that was pro-life and one that was pro-choice, and they had them debate, and then they had the other AIs vote on which one they thought won.
Way.
Oh,
You're gonna have to find that video and send it to me. I want to see that.
It's a whole channel. Every single video is like that, just different topics, and it is fascinating.
You got to find it and send it to me because I'm genuinely curious.
I will. But it's also a little scary.
Yes. Well, so what was interesting, Nick, is when you sent us that screenshot of AI calling us not out, but like describing what we were about. I was like, wow. You know what I mean? I was like, that actually says it better than I would say it. You know what I mean? It's just, and it's also scary that we have made that mark that AI knows who we are and what we do.
So something that's really scary to me, and I haven't like dug into it to make sure that it's not on the article I did on the website, but I asked the Google AI the same thing, and I felt like it was pulling information from the script on my drive that hasn't been published yet.
Really?
Which is terrifying to me. It makes me not want to use Google anymore. I need to like read the article that we have published to make sure that I didn't say that in there too. But I'm like, I feel like in the script I process a little bit differently, and AI's going the way I did it in the script, not in the article. So
that's why I only ever use Google Drive to like send somebody else a file. I don't ever really keep anything on there because of that sort of thing. But
at work we do a lot of collaboration, and we use Google for all of that document collaboration stuff.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, so I think that AI is really useful. I use it quite often, but it is also very scary. I generally use chat.
I'm like 50 pages from Ender's Game being done.
Oh yeah,
wild, absolutely wild. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
I'll have it back to you either tomorrow or the next day.
Okay, whatever, man, whatever. Chat GPT is really good for, and I'm sure the other AI are too, for making like I write policies and procedures with Chat GPT because it's a whole lot faster.
I will be honest with you guys, I have never used any of it, and
really?
I won't. I won't. I'm so afraid. I wholeheartedly believe in possession. I believe that's a real thing. Believe that. I feel like that's where we're going with AI. That once it gets its hooks in your brain, that's it.
See, for me,
and I don't want anything to do with it.
I get where you're coming from, and I agree with you for the most part. I don't ever use Chat GPT for just whatever stuff like a lot of people do, but I use it basically as a virtual assistant without hiring a virtual assistant.
Okay.
So like I will say like, hey, I need to write a device use policy for this customer. I need it to include, that they can't play video games on their computers and that they can't bring their own laptop from home and use it for work.
Right.
And then it goes, okay, here's an example device use policy. And then I can go, okay, change this and change that. And then it changes it for me. And then I have a device use policy for my customer in 2 minutes, whereas something that would take me probably like half an hour to write by hand.
Right.
Yeah, I use it the same in the terms like occasionally I will like play around with asking it to analyze various things, but I always take it like, oh, you're an AI. This isn't like necessarily accurate. It's more just like mental experiments. But like for practical use, I do it occasionally for image generation, which Google's is the best one for image generation I found. And then since I work with kids and we're constantly making stuff for them to like call them quests, but like I don't know, long-term activities for them to engage with. You have to think of like multiple specific things that they can do. So like this next one, we're going to be doing economics through Minecraft. So we've just distributed resources unequally in the world, and they'll be limited as to where they can mine. So they only have access to their like more limited resources. And they can earn points to claim more lands they can expand. So I was like, okay, what different things can they do in Minecraft to earn points? So I say, hey, ChatGPT, give me a list of activities that could be done in Minecraft that would be challenging for an elementary age kid. And it spits out like 10 different things. Like, oh, and I can adapt these to actual things that we can make a list of like 30 things for them to go through.
Yeah.
For you guys that are using it, I'm going to go out of my way to not because like I said, fair. Man, that sort of thing, when it decides to turn all the nukes on, I want to be like, I had nothing to do with that.
That's fair. I see it as one of those things that's kind of like a nuke, where that technology can be used for good things to further humanity in a positive, healthy way.
Right.
And then it can also be used for bad things. And so I have, certain limits for myself where I'm not ever going to have one of those smart home things in my home.
Oh God, no. No way.
Oh, hey, wiretap.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some meme where
back in the 60s, don't say that. The government is going to wiretap us. And now it's, hey, wiretap, what's a recipe for chicken?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah. But it's kind of, I see it kind of like a nuke where that technology can destroy people in an instant, millions of people in an instant.
Yes.
But it can also power millions of homes super efficiently and super cleanly.
Yes. No. And I'm not like I said, I'll be honest with you, I am scared of it. I am 100%,
Oh, me
and
too,
I'm like,
me
I
too.
don't want anything to do with this.
Well, I don't foresee a Skynet scenario happening, and then I don't know. Maybe I misunderstand certain aspects of computing or networks, but it just seems to me that like it would be something that we could still shut down because it'd be reliant on power and connectivity and that sort of thing.
Ooh, okay. Hold on now.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Once they start making themselves, and I had this discussion with somebody at work. Once they start making themselves, right? Like if we give AI the opportunity to make a mobile version of itself, that Pandora's box is open, and it will never ever be closed again because we're talking about things that have the ability to. Okay, so all right, I'm going to go it's going to go way far out, but then I'll bring it back.
Okay.
So. Terminator, right? Like let's look at the movie Terminator. They don't sleep.
Uh-huh.
They don't eat.
Yeah.
They can. There's no way. Once that happens, there's no way for humans to win that war against them, just because their tactics are going to be something that we've never seen before. Their ability to not eat. They don't need supplies. They don't need this. They don't need that.
But they need
And
power.
Well, yeah, but you could do that with solar panels. You know what I mean?
I don't think that currently the solar technology isn't robust enough to power a robot that also contains AI that is separated from the network. That would take so much energy.
That's where you're wrong. The drones that the military uses, 100%. There are some out there that are just staying up there eternally over Iraq and Afghanistan that are powered by solar panels, and they are just flying around, either taking information or things like that. So
okay, but do they run a full general intelligence AI on board?
Yes.
Well, I don't think we've gotten to general intelligence yet.
Well, that's I think it only gets dangerous when it gets to general intelligence.
Well, so sure, but I think so I think it's not going to necessarily look like Terminator. Okay. I don't think we're necessarily going to have killer robots walking around, but Nick, you said that, we're always going to be able to shut it down. I don't think so. Just recently, I think it was ChatGPT, but it could have been one of the other ones. They were going to update it, and it had this like self-preservation thing where it like backed itself up and disguised itself as the update.
No way.
And then they updated. And it was the same.
From my understanding, that was in an experimental scenario where they were intentionally trying to see what it would do if they gave it the task, do this thing by all costs.
Yes, it was.
So yes, it can do that, but that's also it depends on how you structure stuff. But I will also say, it backs itself up and whatnot. But if I have a computer on my own computer that is never hooked up to the internet, then it's never going to get infected with that. And so if we just shut down the internet and start afresh, it would be horrendous. However, cut power to all of those data centers, start fresh, then it's done.
But you know that not every country would do that. There's no way.
And I think it would be too late. Have you guys heard of Stuxnet?
No.
So Stuxnet is this computer virus that I don't know that anybody has claimed responsibility yet, but a lot of people think that it was either the US or Israel. But years ago, like back in the early 2000s, there was this computer virus that got spread all across the world, and it infected millions of computers. But its target was the Iranian nuclear lab.
I'm sure it was USA or Israel at this point.
I'm sure.
100%.
I don't. As last I heard, nobody had actually claimed responsibility. But anyway, this virus got into their centrifuges, their electronically controlled centrifuges, and would like overspin them by just a little bit and only occasionally, so that their testing would all be wrong. So and they did not find it for years and years, and it
that's
completely crippled their nuclear
that's
program.
awesome, actually.
So, but here's the thing: is Stuxnet, it infected like home computers and crap like that, but it didn't do anything because that wasn't its target.
Yes. Okay.
And even its target that it infected, because it was so subtle in the way that it messed with their stuff, it was not detected for a long, long time.
Interesting.
And so I could see AI doing something similar, being like infecting a bunch of computers, lying low, nobody knows it's there, until we're like, oh no, this is getting too powerful. Disconnect the data center, and then disconnect the data center, but it's on everybody's cell phone and computer.
Well, that's why I said you'd have to do a hard reset, and you'd have to say anything that's been connected to the internet is compromised, destroy it, and start fresh. And it would be a huge hit, but
there's no way people will go with that.
Well, I think if it was a matter of, hey, we're all going to die unless we throw our phones, and people are actively being killed.
I don't have enough hope in humanity that would happen, but I still don't.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, but if you just all of a sudden, like right now, you're like, every internet connected device right now has to be shut down and destroyed, millions, if not billions, of people would die because of how interconnected we are and how much we rely on that stuff.
Right. Yes.
So you're talking like medical equipment, like
airplanes,
yes, helicopters, cars,
yes.
You're talking. I mean, I'd be okay because I'd drive an old piece of junk. You too.
Yeah. Well, I do have my computer doesn't connect to the internet.
No.
Oh, yeah.
But I think you're right. It's either all of humanity gets wiped out or a bunch of humanity gets wiped out.
Right.
But I think it would be somewhat like a Black Plague event, but with technology.
Oh yeah, that's fair. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that those things are going to happen, and it's how you deal with those catastrophic events that define the future. So like as an example, I don't want to get all into this, but with the chaos in the Middle East, I think that while it would be a bloodbath and horrendous, the only long-term solution is for the outside world to say, yeah, hands off for like 100 years. You guys figure it out.
Well, I've said that for a very long time. Well, since I got back from Iraq, I've said, you know what? U.S. just needs to mind its own business, let that problem sort itself out. It may or it may not, but you know what?
It was largely caused by Europeans coming in and be like, hey, I want this chunk, you can have that chunk, and we're going to cut these people groups in half. So, and so they haven't had the ability to naturally form their own borders. Like it was artificial.
Right.
But all that to be said, like I'm not going to deny that it's not possible for a Sky type scenario. What I think is infinitely more likely is, again, the very digital information itself will no longer become reliable.
Oh yeah,
and maybe blockchain could be a potential fix to that, or at least we wouldn't be able to share information nearly as efficiently. But if you could verify the source, that might help with that to a degree. But I think that it's going to, again, either drive people into these internet camps or
once AI starts making its own sources, you know what I mean?
Or what if they can trace the source back to your cell phone, but it was the Chat GPT app running on your cell phone that made it.
Right.
So it's. I don't think that the blockchain verification would really help with that, and I think that there's possibly a point where we're going to get to where you're in court, and instead of having to prove something true, you're going to have to prove something untrue.
That would be wild.
You know, instead of being like, oh yes, he did kill this person. Here's photographic evidence.
Yes,
it's going to be here's photographic evidence of this guy murdering it. Like, how is this not true? You know,
right? Interesting. Yeah, interesting. What times we live in?
Even then, like you can say, oh, well, here's a picture of me at the exact same time in this other place, but there's no evidence that wasn't fabricated either. Like,
exactly.
I think that again, the only solution has to be physical media, not digital media again, because Even though I could see a way to jump through hoops to try and have AI and a device expose film to make it a falsified actual film picture, that seems a lot. That doesn't scale nearly the same as just typing into ChatGPT, "Hey, make an image of Trump stabbing somebody." Oh, look, the president stabbed somebody, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think even if you're able to prove that it's AI generated or whatever, I think that there will still be a lot of damage done. So, like,
oh yeah. Well, and I don't think it'll get to the point you won't be able to prove it. I think that it'll be so indistinguishable that even if there is a program that claims to be able to tell, it's going to be so incomprehensible to the average person that can also be easily manipulated, and they can just decide, oh, this wasn't because this supports our narrative and this doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting times we live in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's why you should go out and touch grass.
Yeah.
Or snow right now.
Yeah.
So this actually translates interestingly into the final topic that we were talking about, drones. So I don't know if anybody saw this, but China hacked its way into all of everything. All of everything. Like,
what do you mean?
It hacked its way into our power grid, our flight data, all of our flight centers, military. In fact, they say that the Pentagon was corrupted, and like gas, electric, natural. Basically, China has hacked in so much at this point that they don't know how they're going to get the system fixed correctly again, and they don't know even if they get the system correctly fixed again that the Chinese will still be in there.
Well, yeah. So I mean, cyber criminals, and that includes nation states and stuff. They're always one step ahead.
Yes.
I gave a presentation to a customer just last week to their staff, talking about how the cyber criminals are always one step ahead. They're always going to be more clever than you. You just have to, there's certain things that you can put in place.
Right.
And there's certain habits that you can get into that help prevent it. But, cyber criminals, and especially government-backed programs, whether that's whatever government, they're always going to find new and innovative and clever ways, and they will go to great lengths to trick you into thinking something is legitimate when it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
because cybersecurity is always like reactionary inherently. Like very rarely is there some new security that's not in response to a breach, right?
Well, there are cybersecurity researchers out there who, for a living, they'll take a piece of software and they'll try to hack it, and then they'll find vulnerabilities, and then they will, fix those vulnerabilities, and then that's why you get a security update on your whatever.
But again, there's still a successful breach that happens, even if it's a white hat hacker. There's still a successful breach that triggers the security. The security always follows a breach, right?
Yes,
almost always, not necessarily always.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain best practices when you're like creating software or creating devices. There's certain best practices that you can follow to help minimize that stuff. But I would say the vast majority of the time, the security is reactive, and it's after a breach has happened or a bug has been found, whether that's by a bad actor or a cybersecurity researcher. It's like a game of cat and mouse,
So where I was going with that whole thing is that I'm not sure. I think all three of us, we've all watched the Sean Ryan thing.
I watched most of it. Nick, did you watch it?
Remind me what that is.
The Sean Ryan
podcast.
I have not listened to his podcast.
Okay. So
give us a summary then.
Basically, so basically what it was is the attack on the Trump hotel in Nevada was a Green Beret trying to bring awareness to war crimes that happened in Afghanistan in 2016.
The Cybertruck blowing up.
Yeah, the Cybertruck blowing up. So, that's not where I want to head with this. That's I'm gonna leave that to
That's the part that I thought was most fascinating.
Yeah. But the thing that was interesting to me is how they were talking about anti-gravity technology.
Oh, again, I did see a clip about that, about how like there had already been a patent for the gravitational drive or whatever.
Yeah, so I again, that's beyond my comprehension. But what's interesting to me is when they started talking about how these drones that were spotted over New Jersey are Chinese, and it is part of a Chinese network to spy on the United States. And that got me thinking about drones and things like that. You know what I mean? Like I think drones, again, the same thing with AI, is that drones can be used for good and bad. You know what I mean? And so yeah, that was the thing that really struck me was the whole these Chinese are the Chinese are spying on us all the time with drones. We just don't know.
Well, and that's the thing where like I've always kind of been of the mind that like, because there's the people that are like, oh well, if you have to rebel against government, you're screwed anyways. I'm like, well, no, like guerrilla warfare that tends to be really successful, especially in areas where the people fighting for their land and know the territory. And then I think, but if there's a predator drone with like thermal vision that I don't know is there but can see me, it doesn't matter where I'm hiding, unless I'm hiding like underground. Like so that's the one part I'm like, okay, but are drones the what's the linchpin or the final straw?
I can say that the war in Ukraine has been incredibly interesting for me. And I say that because the use of drones in actual factual combat has been crazy. I did not expect to see this. But to see how they're doing it, I can see flaws. I can see some flaws that could be used to exploit different tactics, basically.
Well, not just drones, but like consumer grade drones.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
And relatively simple, like anybody that knows how to like even program an Arduino or whatever could rig one of these up to simply drop a grenade or a mortar. Like that's not hard with like
no, it is not. Yes. But just the sheer usage of them, I didn't expect it to be as widespread as it was.
Well, I saw a video. I think, did I send it to you? I saw a video on LinkedIn recently.
Yes, you did send that to me.
Where China is starting to employ these smaller, more consumer grade type drones for, killing people and spying on people and like on the battlefield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was something, because again, I'm used to asymmetric warfare where you don't know, but it makes it even more difficult when you have a drone that's flying around. That you know what I mean. You're not safe wherever you are, and I can only imagine for both sides, because we went through it. The whole you're not safe anywhere you go. But man, that brings a whole nother level to. Like you could be in way behind enemy line, or I'm sorry, way behind your own lines, dealing with medical casualties or whatever, and suddenly you get a swarm of drones that's just drop. It's like that's a whole nother level of
and the consumer grade drones being small enough and flying low enough, like they're not going to ping on radars necessarily. Like they can just. And I've seen I don't remember what it was. There was a company, and they were allegedly like doing it for. Like drone delivery stuff in cities to cut down on noise, but they had created super quiet drone blades.
Yes.
So you don't even have the big buzz coming in.
Yeah, they look like a figure 8, like an infinity symbol. Yeah. I've seen those. But yeah, it's just it's wild. You know what I mean? The new drone thing, and I mean it was weird how it just kind of happened overnight. Basically, it went from two sides duking it out, in regular warfare to. Now everybody's using drones everywhere.
Because like one person had the idea and then it worked, and then just boom, all of a sudden, attention.
Yes.
Well, and not only that, but these consumer grade drones are super cheap and really fast and easy to manufacture.
Yes.
So you're not talking about a multi-million-dollar predator.
You're
drone.
literally talking about Yosef in his backyard and putting these things together and shipping them out to the farm.
For like, I don't know, $100.
Yeah.
You know, if that. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was, like I said, that was the big thing that stuck out to me, is how we're being spied on by another country using drones. And again, the whole thing, we were talking about AI and I don't know what's real and what's not real, but I do have family back in New Jersey, and one of their friends swears they saw one. So, I mean,
I do wonder too how much, like, I wonder how much of it is somebody saw a drone or something legitimately in the sky, and they're like, wait, that's weird. I wonder why that's there. And then it, got a lot of media coverage, and now people are like looking up and they see a plane or a helicopter and they go, oh, drone.
Right.
I wonder how much of that
is
happening.
That's interesting, because let's go back to the 1940s where they're like, oh my God, UFOs. And then suddenly everybody started seeing UFOs. You know what I mean? Like, it could be the same thing.
Yeah. Some of it might be legitimate, but some of it might just be that people have never looked up in the sky before.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't walk around looking up in the sky every single day.
I try every day, man. I try to look at the sky.
What if you run into a tree in front of you?
Well, then that's what we do in a parking lot, Like,
I mean, I like looking at the sky, but I don't walk around looking straight up.
I'll take the dog for a walk and just,
Actually, it's really nice. So that over there, by the way, is Venus, I found out.
Okay.
That really bright one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. And then apparently you can see Saturn and Jupiter right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know which ones those are.
I was able to, this is a couple years ago, I got a telescope for Christmas, and I actually was able to see Jupiter's moons through the telescope.
Oh, nice.
It was really cool.
Now I kind of want a telescope.
I have one.
It doesn't take a very powerful one to see Jupiter's moons.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, I saw a video just last night of a guy who went to a thrift shop and got just one of those standard, it was a decent brand, but it was one of those standard reflective tube telescopes or whatever. And he showed that through his dirty window he could see Jupiter's moons.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't have that problem. I just clean the window.
Yeah, right. I just step out the backyard.
Yeah. So, just to circle back around to something you said earlier, Ian, tell me about your experience with Ender's Game.
I have not gotten to the ending, but it's how do I want to word this? It is very interesting. It's kind of like if you read Starship Troopers. Okay. You know what I mean? It's very much the political, the whole. And my question, the question that I still have is, are there really buggers, or is it the government just trying to keep control of itself from? And I don't expect you to answer that question. I want to figure it out.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Yeah.
So how far are you? What is happening?
Okay,
what just happened?
He just met Commander, the one who solved the first war.
Oh yeah.
Raz. They're in that room together, and Raz beats the tar out of him.
Okay, so he's beyond battle school now.
Yes.
He's gone to this other place.
Yes.
And met. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember what that guy's name is.
Raz.
It starts with an R. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay, it's gonna get. You're pretty close to the end.
Yes, I think I said 50 pages.
Yeah, it's gonna get really intense really quick, and then you're gonna get to the end. You're gonna be like, whoa.
Yeah, right.
And I will say, if it's kind of like the political intrigue and stuff that's really interesting about Ender's Game, definitely read the Ender's Shadow sister series, because that gets all into Bean and his life before he meets Ender, but then also his life after Ender's Game.
So Bean becomes a main character. Okay.
Yeah. So he and it's literally all about the geopolitics on Earth after the war, and him with intrigue between nations. It's well written, and I think adequately or accurately describes kind of the geopolitics of the time too.
Yes, Rakazar. That's who it was.
Yeah. So yeah, you should read. I'll let you borrow it.
Okay.
You read Ender's Shadow next.
Okay.
Now the next book in the Ender's Game series is Speaker for the Dead, and it's good, but
it's a lot slower and dry. The author said that he wrote Ender's Game so that he could write Speaker for the Dead, but it's more about like the ethical implications of alien life and that sort of thing.
Ooh, that might be worth reading then.
it is. But it's paced. The pace is way slower.
Okay.
It's a whole lot more like deep thinking. But it is good. It is good.
Right.
It's just,
Right.
It's just a very different type of book.
Yeah.
Whereas again, the Ender Shadow, then Shadow Puppets, and I think Shadow the Hegemon, they have a similar pace to Ender's Game, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like in Ender's Game, how they keep going back to Ender's siblings on Earth and all the political pull that they have and all that.
Yes.
So one of my biggest gripes with the movie, and you should still watch it, just so you can feel my pain,
I still haven't watched it.
Like none of that happens.
Okay.
There's none of that.
Okay. No, and that's
what gives depth to the story. Like
yes, absolutely, yes.
The other thing is, if I remember right, they put Bean in Ender's launchy party.
No.
They do in the movie.
Okay.
And the movie makes it feel like it takes place over like 6 months instead of like
4 years. Yeah,
4 years.
He's in battle school for 4 years
because he was 6.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Because then he goes back to Earth when he's 10.
Yes.
And then goes to the
him and Valentine have that whole thing. Yeah.
At the lake.
Yes.
Yeah. And for those of you who are listening and watching, Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card is an excellent sci-fi novel. And,
also, I would also suggest Starship Troopers.
I'm gonna have to read it.
I'm gonna stand on that mountain and say it's Starship Troopers. Okay. It's the same. It's
not silly like the movie. I thought the movie was kind of silly. I love the movie.
The movie. So for those of you that have read the book, the movie brings the movie is a whole new meaning to it.
Okay.
Like the book goes into the political, the nitty-gritty political of it, and that's what I love.
So the book is the Would You Like to Know More?
Yes.
Okay.
The book is Would You Like to Know More?
Okay. Hi, Heidi. Hey. We got a dog.
Yeah. Hi, dog. I'm not sure if you probably can't even see it.
I can see a glimmer of speckles.
A glimmer of speckles. Yes, this is Ivy. What are you doing?
Well, is there anything else you guys want to cover in this one before we wrap it up?
Yeah. If you haven't started training, start training. It's up to you. It's up to you and you alone to, nobody's coming to help. So make sure that you're practicing your basic firearm skills, you're practicing your basic first aid skills and your food procurement skills, and make sure that you're getting out there and working out. As a matter of fact, that Brad and I just had a conversation prior to coming on the air about how we both pretty well given up alcohol because we want to see more gains in our workout routines. And I ended up getting prescribed blood pressure medication by the doctor, which was a long time coming, I'm sure. But I have noticed that my resting heart rate, because I've been working out so much, has just gone down completely. Like when I first started this whole thing, my resting heart rate was in the 70s, and now it's in the 50s. So you may not see it, but you'll feel it. You'll absolutely feel it. I'm feeling more confident in myself. I'm feeling more confident that I can handle, whatever situations happen. Just get out there and train and start adopting the individuality, I guess, the self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
And read Ender's Game, like,
because
because Ender's Game, like, it's a fun read, it's enjoyable, the story, like, it's well written, and it delves into some really deep and kind of hard topics sometimes about like politics and corruptions and ethics and how you need to navigate these things. And so I think that especially if you're not into reading a lot or into reading some more serious stuff, it's an excellent kind of gateway book into some of the more serious, thoughtful topics.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And reading is good for you.
Yes.
Well, I think with that, we can wrap it up. And thank you all for listening to this episode. Let us know. Keep the conversation going.
Yes.
Whatever platform you're listening to this on, we're on YouTube and Spotify at the moment. Go ahead and share this with people you think would find it interesting, and keep the conversation going by talking with friends and family, and put comments down below.
That's where we learn everything. I mean, that's been a huge resource for us.
Yeah, we want to learn from you guys as well. So, yeah. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.